need to know this. America doesn't need any more competition-killing mega corporations. On Tuesday, 6 progressive senators, including Senators Elizabeth Warren, Al Franken, Bernie Sanders, sent a letter to Attorney General Eric Holder and FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler asking them to block the proposed Comcast-Time Warner mega merger. In that letter, the senators wrote that we believe that Comcast TWC's unmatched power in the telecommunications industry would lead to higher prices, fewer choices, and poorer quality services for Americans. They went on to say that we hope you'll take a stand for U.S. consumers and businesses and reject Comcast's proposed acquisition. The letter comes as executives with Comcast and Time Warner are in Washington to meet with Justice Department officials to talk about the $45 billion merger. Just last week, Bloomberg reported that attorneys with the DOJ were preparing to recommend blocking the deal. So Comcast and Time Warner officials are probably trying to change their minds. A Comcast-Time Warner merger would create the largest television and internet distributor in the United States. It would mean that one company would control a staggering 57% of all broadband internet in the country. It would mean the consumer choice in the industry would even be more non-existent than it is today. So, aren't the senators right? Shouldn't the DOJ put the kibosh on this competition-destroying, price-raising, monopoly-making deal? Let's rumble. Joining me for tonight's Big Picture Rumble are Huey Newsom, member of the National Advisory Council of Project 21 Black Leadership Network, TJ Helmstetter, Director of Media Relations of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, and Jennifer Kearns, contributor to the Washington Times and The Blaze. And great to have you all back with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. You all heard my intro. Isn't this merger a classic example of why we need to go back to pre-81 when Reagan, or 82 I guess it was, when Reagan basically officially stopped enforcing the Sherman Act? I mean, if there was ever anything that says, you know, too big, destroy competition, this has got to be it.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I listened to your intro, and I was just reminded of about, you know, something we went through about 14, 15 years ago, when some of the same warnings were put forth when AOL and Time Warner were merged. And then, of course, you know, all the naysayers said that this was doomsday end of the world, and we see what happened.
I don't recall that. I do recall everybody everybody's jaw dropping at the size of the .com bubble that had taken AOL, made it large enough to buy Time Warner.
Things tend to balance out. I'm not as concerned about anti-competition with this deal. I think that I think that what you will find is that there will be synergies that will help the consumer. There's also going to be scale. I hear the laughter, but I think that the consumer will find that there's a lot more convenience, a lot more product, and a lot more service that'll come from this deal.
That's what all the big banks all told us that too, Huey.
No, I apologize for the laughter. The laughter is because I've seen my own Comcast bill and how service has just really gotten so great over at Comcast. All prices have gone down. Of course, that's the opposite of reality, and I think it's interesting that conservatives tend to be very pro-competition when it comes to shrinking government and the private market, but then when it comes to big corporations wanting fewer competition, that's fine too.
Well, there's one thing that we have to remember. You can't stop paying taxes, but you can choose to go somewhere for your internet. You can go to Netflix. There's so many other media that you can use to get your entertainment.
You can stop paying taxes.
You can go to jail.
Well, you can move to a state where there's no income tax. And just pay sales taxes.
Okay, fine, but you still have to pay
leave the country.
You have to pay federal income tax, right?
But
if you make over $30,000 a year in a single.
Tom, look at the airlines. As airlines have been able to merge, seats have gotten tighter together. You have to pay $25 to check a bag. I mean, costs have gone through the roof, service has gone down. This is what happens when you leave consumers with few choices between these mega huge corporations.
Go ahead.
Well, in terms of the airlines, people do make their choices. I now don't fly airlines that make me check a bag and pay $25 per bag. So at the end of the day, I'm a free market person through and through.
I want to know who your airline is.
With the cable companies, look, I believe in businesses' right to do business in America. They have said that they want to get into the two largest markets in America, New York and Los Angeles. Believe me, those are two places I've lived. Consumers won't be quiet about it if they don't like their service.
Well, but what they're doing basically is, you know, the classic imperative since John Rockefeller of business is destroy your competitors. And this is what they're doing. Only instead of destroying them, they're buying them. But what it's doing is it's destroying competition.
But the beauty of it is we in government, which you're a fan of, have a process for this. The company, as far as I've read and experienced, they have talked to regulators. They've been talking to regulators for well over a year on this. They've been looking at doing this for 5 years, going back to 2010, and they're meeting with antitrust regulators now to alleviate their concerns. So there's nothing about the companies they haven't done by the letter of the law.
In France, for example, where you could choose from more than 100 internet providers for your internet service, and most of them also offer telephone service and cable TV service. And because in France they say, you know, whoever owns the copper, they still have to sublease it to other people, like we used to do with, like our telephone services used to do with ISPs. That has led to real competition. I mean, literally 100 companies competing for your, and the result of that is that for about $30 a month in France, as the New York Times documented last year, you get 100 MIPS down, you get over 100 channels of cable television, and you get, what do you call it, cell phone, you know, for $30 a month. Here in the United States, that'd be $200 for all those three things, because there's no competition in the cell phone business or in the cable business or in the internet business.
But to Huey's point about the AOL Time Warner merger back in Y2K, I think this is a very instructive point. France didn't invent the internet. We invented it here in the United States of America, in Silicon Valley, where I've lived and worked, and we were able to do that because government, by and large, was able to get out of the telecom companies' ways for a brief moment.
No, government created the internet.
Well, that's a separate debate, but let's be clear.
The internet was invented by the Department of Defense and universities. It was DARPA net originally.
Viable. The free market made it commercially viable.
Yeah, CompuServe
but
and
the
AOL.
free and guess what? Democrats and progressives are for the free market too. We're all capitalists at this table, or at least I am. The fact of the matter is that America should be open for business, and it should be open for lots of businesses to compete with each other, not just one huge business to take up the entire market and jack up prices while hurting consumers.
But here's the problem with that argument. Okay, these are successful businesses that are making a decision that is in the best interest of the shareholders. So now you're saying, okay, we're fighting for capitalism.
The shareholders, not of the consumers.
Okay, so we can have that philosophical debate. Who does a company that serve the stakeholders, shareholders, customers, wherever? Okay, fine. We can have that philosophical debate. But at the end of the day, you have two successful companies that are making a decision, and now you're saying that we're going to pick winners and losers. That's not
we're not picking winners and losers. We're saying both of you should continue to win by serving consumers and your shareholders rather than merging to serve more shareholders and fewer consumers. Right. And the fact is, companies have more responsibilities than just to their shareholders. They have responsibilities to all of us.
Per government stipulations.
Yesterday, I think we've kind of talked this one out. Yesterday, President Obama responded to critics of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, what I call SHAFTA, in an interview with MSNBC's Chris Matthews. Check it out.
Everything I do has been focused on how do we make sure the middle class is getting a fair deal. Now, I would not be doing this trade deal if I did not think it was good for the middle class. And when you hear folks make a lot of suggestions about how bad this trade deal is, when you dig into the facts, they are wrong.
When you dig into the facts, they are wrong? Oh, they being the... Okay, so here's the two things that I don't get about this. Number one, I don't get why President Obama is taking this position. I spent 3 hours on the radio today talking to my listeners. You know, somebody even called in and said, well, he's being blackmailed. And I'm like, I don't know. Has he been lied to? Is he being badly advised? Or is this just the price of something that, you know, you have to do? I mean, Bill Clinton did the same thing. It's like, really, what's going on here? That's my number one question, and I'm curious your all takes on that. But the number two question is, whenever Obama says, this is something I like, you know, like Obamacare, for example, it was originally Nixon care, and then it became Romney care. It was a Republican idea. It was Heritage Foundation care. As soon as Obama says, I like that, thinking that because it was a Republican idea, all the Republicans would jump up and say yes. Everybody says no. I mean, shouldn't the Republicans all be united against TPP simply because the president is coming out in favor of it? In fact, could that be his strategy?
Hold on, wait. That's a bit of a conspiracy theory thing. I mean, in practice,
I agree.
Republicans are fast-tracking the authority to get for him to approve this and push this through.
I know, which baffles me.
Yeah, it baffles me too. But okay, let's for once give. I'm not condoning Republicans, but let's at least give them credit. They are being consistent. right? With fair trade, free trade, whatever you want to call it. They're being consistent. So
Yeah, they backed NAFTA, they backed CAFTA, they backed, yeah.
So they're being
permanent-
consistent,
okay.
whether or not the president likes it or not.
We just got a
support.
minute and a half. Let's get some other.
Yeah,
Jennifer?
I think the real problem for the president this week is that his own Democratic Party is now turning against him on the fast track. And I think the thing is, President Obama's campaign promises are coming home to roost, to use a phrase from his pastor, Reverend Wright. And that is, all of the big corporate money that he took, that Hillary Clinton will also take in 2016, is now coming back to roost, and he's got to repay some promises for his 2008 campaign and his 2012
I thought we were talking
election.
about trade, and Obama's wrong on trade, and Elizabeth Warren is right on trade, and Obama would be wise to rethink his Republican TPP policy.
Okay. And what do you, and TJ, why do you think he is taking this position, or would you rather not speculate? And B, in the 30 seconds we have left, what's Hillary Clinton going to do?
I think that Hillary has taken some great steps in the first few weeks of her campaign toward economic populism, and I hope that her campaign continues to become more specific and more populist, and I look forward to hearing from her, and I hope she comes out strongly against TPP.
I do too. In fact, I'm starting to think that this might become a litmus test for the progressive base. And frankly, for the conservative base, you got a lot of conservatives who hate the TPP, or particularly fast track.
On this one.
Yeah, I am too. More of tonight's Big Picture Rumble right after the break.